Is grace a license to sin? Although this is a legitimate question, when you break down salvation, the question no longer makes sense. Paul says in Romans 6, he asked this question, so should we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. We are those who have died to sin. How can we live in it any longer? Because the full picture of salvation is this, that our old self has died with Christ. We've been buried with Christ. And so in the same way that Christ was raised from the dead through the glory of his Father, we can now live a new life. But we can only live that new life and experience it once we have died with Christ. That's the only way. So the person who uses grace as an excuse to continue sinning reveals that he doesn't live this new life because he hasn't died with Christ. And if he hasn't died with Christ, this reveals that salvation is not working inside that person. Now Jesus says in John 8:34-36 that everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. And now whom the son sets free is free indeed. Now grace is not a license to sin, but it's a license to be free. And in Titus chapter 2, verses 11-12, it tells us that the grace and salvation of God teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions. And it teaches us to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. So basically, part of salvation is to teach us to say no to the world and to sin and to live godly lives right now.